The first Mad Max introduced the world on the brink of collapse. The second, the remnants forming communities and rivalries. The third, a fever dream. And the fourth, nation-states with a broken Max. But I want to talk about Mad Max 3.5.
Once you had everything. Purpose, love, family and friends. They ripped it all from you. You drifted far from what you were. But you still lie inside, dormant, waiting to rise again.
No. This is what I am.
Maybe not. Perhaps you fear him you carry inside. That he'll hurt you with his weakness.
Enough.
Very well. Let's have a peek what you've hidden within. Come out.
The game starts with a cutscene. Despite being released 2 years after The Last of Us, it looks much older. I know I just started talking about the game and the first thing I do is shit on it, but stick with me here. I gotta be thorough, and these cutscene visuals are one of the weakest parts of the game. My bias creeps in when I see them as quaint as opposed to ugly. This opening cutscene, which starts with the POV of the main menu, which is very neat, gives us Max, his backstory, motivations, primary antagonist faction, and the big bad. It tells us that Max is running from his past and wants to cross the plains of silence, the Great Salt Bed. It shows us that Max is skilled and ruthless, but not invincible. When Scabrous Scrotus arrives, he beats him, steals his car, jacket, and gun. Max gets back up and tries to get his car back. We get a kick the puppy moment from Scabman and learn that Max doesn't intimidate easily. Going crazy from trauma and isolation leads to some poor table manners around authority figures. We also learn that Max is an accomplished surgeon. The dog, aggressive but now with no choice but to help Max, wakes him up and guides him to useful equipment. They aren't friends, but they have better odds if they work together, a through line with Max and his story to come. The cutscene ends as Max drops himself into the playable area. If you're a returning viewer, you might remember I couldn't recommend Battlefield Hardline as a silly but fun game because the long cutscenes and walking portions were unskippable. Mad Max, now I recommend letting the cutscenes play as they are quite good, even with the low graphics, but you can skip them, which can really help with the replayability if you aren't as interested in the story and characters as I am. Now we're in the tutorial area. Takes about an hour. Now I know this is going to sound like cope, especially since I've never been bothered by long tutorial missions, so it's hard for me to get into the headspace of someone that is, but this is the best tutorial I've ever played. I know that sounds dumb just on its face, so let's go through it and I'll show you what I mean. Starting off, the canteen you found is empty, so the first thing you gotta do is follow the dog to a water source. Water and food restore health, but only water can be kept on your person. Health, water sources, and your canteen are all bars to be filled, so it's a simple balancing act, and if you want to keep some water in reserve, it's a gamble if you can find food to top off your health instead. The dog moves on and gets caught in a trap by our soon-to-be buddy, Chum Bucket.
It is me, Chum Bucket, master wrench jockey, and skilled blackfinger who's an acolyte to the angel combustion who beseeches...
Chum, even by Wastelander standards, is odd. A truly devout man to the core, he worships the machine and his vision sent him on a quest for the angel combustion to bring the magnum opus into this world. Divine meets drive shaft, and the holy work needs a driver, a saint. Chum watched the cutscene events through binoculars and believes Max to be that man. Chum will stick by Max to heal and modify his car as a sacred duty, a necessary in-game mechanic supported by solid narrative reasoning. I love this game. Once Chum realizes the dog is Max's companion, he changes gears from dinner to repairing the little guy and needs Max to collect parts for his buggy. Chum is a genius mechanic but needs the saint to collect the parts. a mutually beneficial relationship. Now, I need to mention that Chum left it open-ended, but Max was the one who decided the dog's care can wait until he collects wire for the buggy. At this point, Max is cold and uncaring, only doing what will benefit him. Collecting wire puts us into our first fight. Starts out simple, blocks and strikes. Time it right and you'll be golden. There's more to it than that, but we'll get more later. With the wire collected, we grab the dog and jump into the buggy. Small criticism, the buggy's not running. He came here for wire to fix it, but the buggy is already here, so that means he drove the busted buggy to get parts for the buggy to run. All he had to do is say it's hurting or sick or whatever, and he needs the wire to heal it, and this wouldn't be a problem. It's a small thing. Anyway, we jump into the buggy and learn how to drive. Very simple, handles well, we'll get more in depth later, we'll talk more then. By the time we reach the camp Max's car is at, it's already been chop-shopped. Chum shoots his shot with that paladin Riz and enlists Max on his holy quest.
I'm getting my car back.
Wait, please. I have an idea. It's better for you, and it's better for me. Just listen.
Chum knows Max isn't a true believer, so he doesn't even try that. Instead, he's pragmatic. Chum is devoted, but that doesn't make him ignorant to what others find important. The skeleton of the car is alive, but it needs a body. On the way to steal one, we stop by a scavenging location to collect fuel. Scavenging locations are marked on your map whenever you drive near and are all over the place. Some occupied, some not, scrap or currency are at all of them, but some have collectibles, project parts, or even unique vehicles and car bodies. Once our fuel is collected, it's time to get the magnum opus her skin. We enter the buzzard's lair. They're night dwellers and tunnelers. Because they are out hunting at night, getting in is quiet. We find a flashlight here. A piece of equipment normally not worth mentioning, except this is an explosive-proof flashlight, which just means it's sealed and rated for use in environments with flammable gas. These things have been around for decades and are still in the Navy supply system, since if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, it's not important, but it's a neat tidbit since there are a lot of these things out there and they're durable. It is a good choice of flashlight for the game. Anyway, we pick our car body, we have a little fight about it, and we bail. As we escape, the buzzard sends cars at us and we learn vehicle combat. Just the basics, more to come later. With the magnum opus looking proper, we build a weapon unique to the Angel, a harpoon.
It's just there for safety.
Chum can use it to pull stuff down, skewer people, and eventually attack vehicles. The first thing we use it for is trashing some modern art. Then a camp. There are too many warboys around, so we gotta thin the herd. Camps have outer defenses, enemies inside, and some objective to destroy, so there's no reason for them to return. Either fuel tanks or pumps. While raiding the camp, a storm rolls in. Visibility drops, debris and lightning damages Max and the magnum opus, and the sound bouncing blasts your fucking ears with wind. On the plus side, the storm carries valuable scrap boxes. If you don't want to play in the rain, hiding out indoors is your best bet. Both when collecting wire and now in the camp, we caught glimpses of the shaman. With the camp broken, we can go speak to him. He's part of Max's psyche that challenges and heals him over the game. Mechanically speaking, he's a level up system. As you complete challenges, you can earn tokens that can be cashed in to upgrade stats. Each tier unlocks new dialogue. This will become critically important in the game's greatest flaw, but that's still a while out. Chum pissed off while we were arguing with ourselves and we used a flare gun to call him back. Now it's an action we have available at any time. On the journey back to Chum's tabernacle, we install Nitro Boost and test it on a jump, introducing both the ability to modify the car outside of garage and the concept of fall damage. After busting up a couple peeping toms, our next objective is the tabernacle, but a pop-up appears explaining how to upgrade Max's gear while you just so happen to be near an optional scavenging location that introduces harpoonable covers and locked doors that can be broken with Max's gear that it just told you how to upgrade. Back in Chum's sanctuary, the dynamic duo work out their master plan.
What did I tell you? V8, not V6.
Exactly. 8 is the magic number. You and me, we're gonna land a big chief!
Why overcomplicate things? Chum's end goal is perfecting the car, Max's end goal is to cross a salt bed in a car. The quest for Big Engine takes most of this game, by the way. Their master scheme is interrupted and Chum's home burns as they flee. The heretics belong to Stankgum, a sadist and unstable lapdog controlled by our surgery patient Scabman. With the sanctum ruined, it's time to move on. Chum knows a guy. We leave the tutorial area and are spit out right next to an optional scout balloon, something we can fuel up and ride to scout the region. To sum up just the tutorial, Max arrives via cutscene, meets Chum, gets a car body for the magnum opus, raves the camp, and leaves. There's a short detour to collect wire, level up, and test nitrous. This is an open-world vehicle combat and customization and ground combat game with multiple factions and characters. In a fluid and narrative-focused way, the tutorial taught us everything we need to know to say fuck the main quest and explore the world instead. But we also know 3 of the 4 most important characters and what their motivations are. We have interacted with, at the very least, the 3 major factions vying for power in environments and with methods that are consistent with and will be expanded on in the wider world. Small stuff like Max's gear and scout balloons aren't stated goals but are placed in such a way that the players will be drawn to them without being forced. This tutorial is the best I've ever played because it teaches and shows so much in a narrative and natural way. Our objective is to gain sanctuary in Jeet's stronghold, but the world is open to us for free roam as well. Either way, we'll be driving, so let's talk about that. The driving feels good. I'm really not equipped to say more than that. It's responsive without being jerky, bumps are smooth without being floaty or jagged. I really don't know, man, it feels good. Driving on roads and hard surfaces gives you the best traction and speed, while deep sand, tar, and junk slow you down, sometimes to a ludicrous degree. The modifications are, for the most part, a balancing act between strength and maneuverability. Armor and ramming grills add weight that reduce acceleration. Bigger engines increase acceleration but lose handling. Tires improve traction with no drawbacks, but you gotta pick dirt roads, asphalt, or a weaker mix of both. Top speed has no drawbacks. Spikes that reduce the success of jumpers have no drawbacks. Weapons are mostly all ammo limited. Grinding is free. Flame spouts eat up fuel. Shotgun uses ammo and sucks against armor. Thunderpoons are OP but a late game item. The sniper rifle eats ammo, the harpoon is free. But it's a custom weapon. It's kind of the whole point. It's a utilitarian item, anti-personnel, and anti-vehicle. Doors can get torn off to access the driver. The bumper can get grabbed for a powerful ram, and wheels can get torn right off. The baddies don't have a lot of weapons. Most rely on rams, but some have jumpers, grinders, or flame spouts, with mine layers and kamikazes as wildcards. We got them outgunned and can trick them into fall damage that upgraded shocks save us from, but they have us heavily outnumbered and rival factions will prioritize us. So it balances out quite nicely. Also, the pretty colors and sounds make my lizard brain happy. Very satisfying. Time to meet Jeet.
Driver, does he have any knowledge of medicine?
I fear not! Your pain must linger! I'm sorry, but he is a driver of otherworldly skills!
Chum's voice actor is fantastic, and this really shines this whole scene.
We will deliver to you a bona fide grease pit! Praise be the prophet!
Let him inside.
Jeet is an intimidating figure, an independent ruler of the Great White region. He's based in an old lighthouse fortress with excellent defense, but no real offensive capabilities. Yet. He's young and aggressive, but his people respect him. From his bio, we know he has a medical condition that sends him into an unstable state, and he self-medicates the only way available to him. The same arrows his guards use are acting as forehead piercings, as pain gives him something he can focus on so he doesn't lose control. This inherent instability being barely held in check can be seen whenever Max acts threateningly.
It's not much of a car. You trust that little scrap monkey?
For now, not much of a stronghold.
Careful now. Don't want to insult a man in his own home.
That's where I come in, huh?
Oh, listen!
Max's lack of manners is consistent. Fortresses can be upgraded by collecting project parts from scavenging locations or camps, and every 2 completed projects upgrades the fortress. Each project will supply some resources or service. The dog, water, fuel, scrap crews, scavenging locations, online scrap collection, which is now dead that the servers are down, and the one relevant one, ammo. Each fortress has relevant side quests. Jeet wants powder. Crossbows are not enough to keep the warboys out of his territory, so off we go to jailbreak a powder cook slave. This will expand in time, but just know Jeet is one of my favorite leaders in any game. A young, capable, unstable man in the worst conditions, putting himself in pain just to control himself, just to do what's right for his people. We need a rifle. The parts Jeet graciously donates as they're worthless to him without jump skills, and we head out to the wall separating the south from the north. We stop by a nearby observation tower and learn how to snipe. Pretty standard stuff with a lock-on aim assist feature that goes to center of mass and can be altered slightly for headshots or aiming around cover. Once inside, we meet a new enemy type. The game gradually adds more enemy types to keep things more interesting. Some standard, some that dodge and have to be hit with a weapon or counter or staggered with a roll. Shield guys that charge. Guys that block you until you use a heavy attack or counter or stagger. Low health savages, and even explosive throwers. Fighting any of these guys one-on-one is simple enough, but when a mix of them fight, things get more interesting. You gotta prioritize. You can separate some of them from the group to handle them alone, and you can use the reckless chargers to inflict friendly fire damage. The combat isn't perfect. It can easily devolve into just rolling around and whittling them down. The final attack on a combo is long and can't be cancelled once initiated. So long that after you're locked in, a baddie can wind up and strike, leaving you defenseless and annoyed. Rage mode is activated automatically once the bar is filled. It does more damage and ignores blocks and dodges, but it is slower than normal strikes, so you're forced to dodge before landing a hit more often. Rage kills restore some health though, so it's pretty worth it. As Max levels up, he unlocks fighting skills like shoulder charges and executions that can spice things up and make things easier. We subdue the hooligans, climb the tower, and scout out the jaw. We aren't ready. The car needs upgrades. We need to make the Jack. The Jack is an Archangel, a preset of car mods that must be unlocked and purchased. Honestly, worthless outside of races that require them and a few challenges that don't actually need to be completed in order to reach max level. Get it? Max level. At this point, we can get everything we need for the Jack except the armor. For that, we need to speak to Gutgash, a leader to the west.
Late sight. It's too strange. The wind and the Guzzoline went to the sacred house of the Carb, yet now they travel together as one. Flustered.
Plenty of time to kill him.
Frenzy. They venture forth into the many mysteries of the magnificent manifold. No.
Gutgash is cool and all, but I'm sure you noticed the bluff check with an invisible gun. This game is available for PC, but my copy is for the PS4. Maybe that's a contributing factor for the compilation you're about to see. I've put probably 100 hours into this game over the years, and at worst, a glitch has been a minor annoyance. Typically, they're just kind of fun, infrequent, and far less aggravating than Red Dead 2 not letting me pull the trigger. Gutgash holds an old ship as a fortress. He's formed a cult of the ocean. His people are the spiritual descendants of pirates. Prophecies tell of the water returning. Gutgash knows he's full of shit. Grand tales and promises bring faith. Faith brings hope. Idealizing pirates is idealizing looters, outcasts, underdogs, and guerrilla tactics. Highly beneficial when your neighbor is a nation of war boys. Idealizing something like the East India Company would just be depressing. Underdog, but dangerous, is a much better fit. The ocean's returning means the ship must be repaired in preparation, which pragmatically means the walls will be armored. Gutgash missions revolve around protecting his fortress, with one exception of getting a seafood billboard for the cult. With the jack complete, Gutgash directs us to an enemy convoy that has a tool that we can use to break the jaw. He wants it gone because it's been threatening his people. His side missions, including getting a fresh steel from a buzzard hive to upgrade his ship's walls, and a finale mission of breaking warboy siege parties. The ammo project is locked behind another Jeet side quest, scouting sources for powder production. Enough to trade with Gutgash. Gutgash is all about defense, and his upgrades reflect that. Jeet is making his first steps into the wonderful world of arms dealing. What a fitting pair. Remember how Jeet had us kill slavers to enlist a powder cook? Gutgash doesn't seem to have the same aversion, as he's holding a concubine and her daughter for sale, Hope and Glory. Hope has a history with long-lost warlords and gets good vibes from Max, so in 2 side quests she gives him the location of a lost war rig with a special goodie and a crypt with a custom car. She will be very important later. As soon as the jack is completed in Gutgash's stronghold, that mission is over, and you can put all your old car mods back on it if you unlocked to a greater level than the jack. Completing the jack before the jaw is the game's way of ensuring a minimum level of car capability before venturing into the more difficult northern region, as well as introducing the Archangel system and finding car bodies if you didn't pick that specific one in the tutorial. With the tool from the convoy, we're directed back to Jeet to weaponize it. The harpoon gun can now shoot thunderpoons. We're ready to take on the jaw. Now we have access to the full map. 5 regions, 4 with fortresses, 3 with subregions. Camps, scarecrows, snipers, convoys, and minefields can be cleared to reduce the threat level. Reducing the threat level reduces the amount of enemies that can attack you just traveling around the world, but more importantly, they unlock new mods for your car. Scarecrows and snipers are the easiest. Minefields are the most annoying. You gotta use the dog and buggy to sniff them out. It's slow and forces you to travel without the car you put all that time and effort into modifying. The only saving grace is that each disarmed mine restores ammo, so your weak buggy can blast away between mine clearing. Convoys are armed patrols protecting a well-armed but unarmed lead vehicle. Getting too far away will reset all their health, but dead enemies stay dead, so picking off the defenders before focusing on the lead car is your best bet. Camps are how I described in the intro. This is where the majority of ground combat happens, and different enemy types converge. 2 unique types to camps. War Criers, they boost the enemy units if they're allowed to charge up, and Top Dogs. Top Dog camps function as mini-bosses, or are treated like bosses, but in practice they're just a new basic enemy type that's very simple to deal with. Wait for a charge, dodge, hit, run away. They give you car paint, which is neat, but only red paint gives you any sort of gameplay benefit, which is really lame. If you've played this game already and want to see something new, I present a map. Every scavenging location, camp, and convoy was marked by controlling faction to make a political map. This gives us a shocking amount of world building, way more than I expected to get. The war boys are primarily located in camps and convoys. As they are a nation projecting power, this makes a lot of sense. But what's surprising is the roadkill faction. They primarily hold scavenging locations, but with stronger holds on the outskirts and mountain regions. And they have their own path to travel between the north and south without using the jaw. They have weakened a camp to the south and successfully taken a warboy camp to the north. There are several locations that warboys or roadkill have captured from the other. None of this is mentioned in-game. The roadkill don't even have named figures. It appears there is a silent war going on behind the scenes. Warboys got aggressive after Scabman got sawed, and the roadkill responded with attacking camps. As that's going on, the Buzzards own the dunes with no competition. They are the top predator and adapted for their environment. In an optional wasteland mission, you find they are becoming an invasive species in the south and can knock out their hives before they take root. Once the threat is dropped in a region, even friendly units can be spotted at the edges of territory as they start to fill the power vacuum. All of this goes a long way to make this feel like a living world that exists beyond the player but is still affected by your actions. I could probably keep going on about each faction and their primary tactics and interfactional power struggles, but I'll keep it simple and say this is environmental storytelling done really well. And if you're planning on exploring this world a bit, I really recommend considering how what you're seeing fits into the big picture. Pink Eye resides in the north and is struggling with solicitors.
Burn what they can't carry.
And they break what they cannot burn.
We break their artillery and get in through a side entrance. Personal thing? I adore medieval tactics used with modern or modern-adjacent equipment. Historically, castles were used as a fallback point to await reinforcements. Sieges were not broken by archers on the walls, but an allied army hitting the aggressors in the rear. The siege army would have to defend attacks from both sides. At least, that's my understanding. I don't pretend to be a historian. With the jaw, the camps, and the recent aggression, any potential allies have been cut off. Until us.
The rest are inside.
We interrupt a standoff between Stinkgum and Pink Eye. Also, Hope is here.
Tell me about it.
Now, I will admit it is a little contrived that they broke through just as we got here, but Hope being there, I'll defend, as she was for sale, and Gutgash implies trading with the War Boys when he said he runs goods through the jaw. Gutgash is such a fucking opportunist. He'll still trade with the people he knows will attack him later. What a good character. Pink Eye runs a faction of skilled mechanics and is based out of an old cooling tower. Common misconception, these towers at nuclear power plants aren't radioactive. It's just where the warm water goes to cool after condensing steam. Think of it as a radiator water in your car. It doesn't actually touch the gas or oil to cool it. That separation keeps the contamination out. Pink Eye drew the short straw on the main story, and all we got from her are side quests. Gutgash and Jeet have the benefit of distance from Gastown, but Pink Eye is too close. She doesn't see a future here, so she plans to send all the young ones across the salt and find someplace new. We collect a sail from a top dog camp used for wind propulsion and dew catcher for morning water. We travel into Buzzard's territory, triangulate some stuff, and clear out an old church that got turned into a storeroom. Very cool mission, I really like it, but it is a bit tropey.
No. Work.
The food will be used as provisions for the trip and unlock the food project at the fortress. With food and water, they're ready to go. Last step is delivering the parts. Max thinks they're all going to die out there. Keep that in mind for later. Before wrapping up Pink Eye's stuff, the ammo project is completed through Jeet's last mission, blowing debris out of a drain tunnel in the wall to open a trade route that bypasses the jaw.
You really want to put Black in the hands of anyone?
Anyone who ain't Scrotus.
Our next destination is Gastown. I'm gonna knock out Deep Fried Fortress real quick because it's weak and I don't care about his religion. Gastown is constantly patrolled and restocked with warboys. The Fire Church survives this by being too inconsequential for anybody to give a fuck about. First mission is to turn the gas back on for their what's-it. Second mission is to get their master pilot light back from a traitor that stole it for his own church. We're in Gastown to win a V8 in a race. The race organizer will put us in the lineup if we do something for him first. He wants working lights for his stage getup. That takes us to the Dunes, a buried airport in the heart of Buzzard's territory. It's a bit of a maze going in, an obvious trap, and a mad dash out. Buzzards are a cool faction. No idea what they're saying under the mask. In the movie, they're Russian maybe, so that tracks. For now, we're done with them. For now. And it's time to return to Gastown. We're in the race. We need a fighter to join us, and Chum does not cut it. We're directed to a druggie.
Need a fighter.
What does mother sucker just say to me? You wanna fight me?
Best guess, she's huffing gasoline. It fits the setting and does horrific damage to the body. As it kills brain cells, chemicals are released that induce euphoria. The high is literally just a side effect of brain damage. To hear more on that, I recommend Tales from the Trip. He covers drug use horror stories and was in some recent drama for being too enthusiastic about race mixing. Tenderloin will join us if we settle our debts with Crowdazzle.
Shiny crow such as I is easily flattered. I may help you after all.
In most subregions is a death run. With the servers down, our options are limited to single-player races. A race will either be Barrel Bash, a checkpoint race against opponents, Scatter Run, same as Barrel Bash but no checkpoints, and Time Bomb, same as Scatter Run but with a time limit, and instead of opponents trying to win, it's just everybody trying to kill you. Completing runs unlocks fuel stashes at death runs, unlocks enemy vehicles for free roam, and rewards Griffa tokens for level ups. Also, civilians will respect you and throw away dialogue. There are some flimsy bits like barrels knocking you off course, but the real difficulty comes in car choice. To dumb it down, having boosts is easy mode. Archangels are on another level, and standard enemy cars are an experience of 20 restarts per race. Crow will wipe Tenderloin's debt if we mog some losers with an Archangel called Speed Demon. Easy day. Back in Gastown, we're ready to start the race. But real quick, the Outcrier with the Christmas lights. Side quests are available for all the fortresses that are tied to their characters, motivations, or needs. The Outcrier has a quest too. He wants you to steal Crowdazzle's speaker truck. Your reward is the truck, without the speakers. The Outcrier is selfish and jealous, willing to step on others in his field to hold on to his position, and doesn't pay well for this work. It's a fine quest for the game and its characters, but I don't usually complete this one because Crow is just so much more likable than the Outcrier. We're ready for the race. The V8 reward which we were working for since the tutorial. Up until this mission, there wasn't any story reason to rush. No problem with just exploring the world at your own pace and doing side content, since, generally speaking, there was no time crunch or emergency that would push us to the next mission. That changes here, and I see this as the beginning of the endgame. Let's go. The reward is the V8 and Hope. To win, we don't need to cross the finish line, we have to break Stank Gum's V8. It's a tough race since we don't have Chumbucket's repair tools and nameless baddies keep jumping in to keep us away from the V8. It's a fun fight, and once we win, we're thrown into the Thunderdome. This is why Chum couldn't join us. I don't consider top dogs as boss fights. This is a boss fight. Tenderloin is a slippery fuck that dodges attacks. Her attacks are sometimes counterable, sometimes not, and you only know at the last second if you need to block or dodge. I found success by ignoring all of that and trying to interrupt her combos. After winning, an old patient makes a surprise appearance. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. We met the big bad in the tutorial, wounded him, and he, while wounded, nearly killed us. We all knew he was coming back. From a realism perspective, a foreign object in your forehead typically kills you, I admit, but not always. Scabman getting domed is reminiscent of Phineas Gage, a railroad worker that took a rod to the head and fully recovered but had a personality change. He died from seizures a decade later, so I suppose fully recovered is a bit of a fib. There's also Leon Trotsky, a Rusky that Stalin wanted dead, which I know just narrows it down to one of a few million people, but you get it. An assassin struck Trotsky in the head with an ice pick. The 60-year-old Russian, with the ice pick stuck in his skull, stood up, turned around, and nearly beat his assassin to death. He was fully conscious and yappy until the ice pick was removed and he cosplayed as a vegetable. All of this to say, Scabman surviving the surgery, taking time to recover, speaking less, and can't remove the instrument has enough real-world precedent that it doesn't hurt realism. My basic take on realism in games and movies is that it should be consistent with what we're shown in the world, and big damage should have big impact. Or fucking any impact, at a minimum, please. Palpatine exploded, but now he's stronger than ever is dumb. Lucy and the Ghoul getting their trigger fingers removed, but then getting them back before it could negatively affect them at all is dumb. The bulkiest dude surviving major trauma that is survivable and put him on sick leave for most of the story and continues to affect him? That's good. The Scabman fight isn't complex, but it's multi-staged with 2 arenas and goons dropping in, so there's some variety to keep things fun. We would have ended him, but his honorless pet rescues his master with a cheap shot and Scabman throws us into a pit. Hope saves us and gets us to a doctor.
Dominus, organic mechanic, my champion, he's wounded.
We didn't even left on my doorstep.
Swin, or you'll end up more of a mess than him.
Let's get him to the chair.
We pass out and enter a dream sequence cutscene. This gives us insight on Max's perception of other characters and his own choices through in-your-face symbolism and other such poetic words.
You have no right to hide in here. You have no right to cut yourself off just because you lost us. You will do it again, husband. And this time you'll do it right.
Do you, crazy-eyed road warrior, take this wasteland concubine to be your lawfully wedded wife?
I do.
Max sees his wife in Hope and knows that if he chooses her, he will lose that road warrior side of himself that has nothing to lose and wants to cross the plains of silence. The Interceptor being portrayed as aggressive is a really nice touch, and it implies he will survive the change if he stays with Hope, and the agreement to marriage shows which choice he's leaning towards. When Max wakes up and leaves, it's time to take the V8 that's rightfully ours. Hope gives us directions under the condition that we rescue her daughter, who ran off to one of Hope's contacts after she broke her out using the fan we gave her. We fight our way through some losers and take the V8 from Stankgum's garage, smash through anyone that tries to stop us, and get to Deep Fried Fortress to put the V8 in the magnum opus. At this point, people should be snitching on us when they see us in Gastown. But they don't. The magnum opus should be compensated after the race. But it isn't. And the war boys should know we're in Deep Fried because they followed us here. But they don't. The Crier's side quest is available after the race, and he says if he snitches on Max, it's his head too. So I guess people are too scared to report Max due to Warboy's misplaced rage? That's not really enough, but let's say we use that and we're writing for them here, this isn't in the game, we use that and the War Crier worked behind the scenes to keep you and the car from getting caught. He could say he did it because you're capable of doing stuff for him that no one else can manage. More believable, and it fits his slimy nature. Uses his control of the races to keep you and your car hidden so that you can do jobs for him that solidify that control. As for reaching Deep Fried undetected, how about after losing pursuers, you clear out an exit point from Gastown before returning to Deep Fried as a misdirect? I don't know, man. It's something. They could have fixed this. They should have caught this.
Now it's your turn.
Turn? What turn? I never promised you nothing.
I was wrong about you. You're just like everyone else. A husk, an empty shell. You're nothing!
Hey! Where is the child?
Max makes his first plot-relevant decision that isn't selfish. There is change happening here. Chum does not want to go back to the dunes, and Max says something incredibly stupid.
Yeah, only a few tweaks now.
Need 2 big fuel tanks to go in the back, and then drive across the plains of silence.
But that's not part of the design. Where will I, faithful Chum Bucket, go? Where do I fit? Say, answer me.
We are very close to talking about this. We have to separate with the magnum opus, and during that time, Chum gets spooked and flees, leaving us alone and without transport, but we still need to find the girl. The Buzzards used children as tunnelers for the same reasons they were so popular as coal miners back in the day. We find one who's been here long enough to lose their grasp on English, but is still friendly with us. Another that wants nothing to do with us, and Glory hiding in an old crate.
Wizard!
Your mama's name is Hope. She's got red hair. She calls you Glory.
Mom alive?
Cargo collected, it's time to go. A Buzzard's top dog arrives for a fight. He looks really cool. And after sending him to the Shadow Realm, we steal his car and return to Hope with Glory. We've arrived. Chum has taken the magnum opus back to his tabernacle. This is the most important scene in the story. I'm gonna play it in full.
Your machine is gone. You were betrayed. So what? Stay with us. Make a life. When are you gonna have another chance?
Our contract is done. Hey.
It's a present. For you.
Together we can build more than a life raft.
Now from what I've shown you, this makes sense. Nothing wrong with it. Max is cold, distant, self-serving. His goal is the plains of silence. He began to warm up to Hope and risk his life to help her even when it wouldn't benefit him. He had positive conversations with the kid, but Hope and Glory came on too strong, too fast with the family dynamic while his original goal is slipping away, so he pushed them away. Makes sense. The biggest problem with this game is the disconnect between the linear story and the open world. Little stuff like civilians recycling captured camps before meeting Jeet for the first time doesn't prompt any dialogue asking who they are. Or the fact that you can find snipers before the mission to build one and there's no dialogue excusing why you can't use the snipers you found. But the big one, that I mentioned way back in the tutorial.
Hide all you want. Like your abilities. You too will outgrow your terrified exile.
The Shaman. If you speak to him every time you reach a new tier, you will get all of his dialogue. This can be done even before breaking through the jaw to the north if you prioritize exploration and side content. The Shaman is Max's broken psyche, a part of himself trying to heal himself. He questions Max's morality, his isolation, and the Plains of Silence.
You say you seek the Plains of Silence, but do you not wander them right now? Tell me again that you're going to the Plains of Silence. Perhaps it's not the killing you enjoy, but the moments of silence the fighting brings you. Terrified that one single ember of good could ignite the mind and consume it. But in some faraway corner of yourself, it'll always smolder. You'll never escape it. But let's leave the past for the future and deal with now.
I don't know. I'm here. That's all I know.
And where is that?
Hell? That's how it feels.
And that's where you are, my friend. What was that about the Plains of Silence?
I'll search them out and cross them in.
Did I not tell you? We're already there. On the boundless Plains of Silence. Look again.
No friends. They only mean trouble.
That which is broken can be mended by love only. I'm glad to see you, my friend.
Me too.
You understand. The time has come to leave these Plains of Silence.
That which is broken can be mended by love only.
It's a very dangerous thing to fathom. Your way does not end with the Plains of Silence.
By the end of this journey, at max level, he gives up his goal of crossing the Plains of Silence. He's ready to welcome love into his life, but the story doesn't reflect that. When doing Pink Eye's side quests, he believes crossing the Plains of Silence is a death sentence. Since this is his goal until the final shaman dialogue, Max's statement only makes sense if he's at max level before he starts that mission. But then later in the game, at the dunes, Max tells Chum he needs fuel tanks to cross the Great White. And now when Max has love within his grasp and a vision of a happy future, he throws it all away like he never spoke to the shaman at all. What's more, we're in the end game here. We only have one more opportunity to level up, at which point events would have happened that make the final shaman meetings nonsensical. The abandonment of hope and glory is a crucial plot point, and it doesn't make any sense if you engage with the world and get to max level beforehand. It also devalues any character development made with the shaman, since we see it changes nothing and may as well never have happened. They could have tried to fix this by having an alternate scene if you're max level, by, let's say, having Max agree to stay but tell them to wait for him and to go get Chum and the car back because they'll need them to survive Scabman's vengeance. Then Max would have opened himself up instead of abandoning them, and the rest of the game could play as normal, and the emotional hit would have been just as hard. But then you still have Chum's theft nonsensical because that was dependent on Max's goal of crossing the Plains of Silence. The game's story was not prepared to deal with players leveling up at different rates when those levels change Max's character. And I don't want those shaman speeches cut from the game either, since, in isolation, they are incredible character development done in a very fitting way for an open world. Let's move on. Max reaches the tabernacle and finds Chum. He's been tortured for information and told Scabman of Deep Fried. Stank Gum stayed behind for us. We fight. It's a similar fight to Tenderloin, except his combos are shorter and harder to interrupt. He knows counters instead of just dodging, and he has goons to distract us. But we can stagger him with rolls to drop his defenses. We kill him in a very satisfying way. It's treated like an afterthought. Like Scabman's pet doesn't deserve your full attention even when he dies. For such a cruel and edgy character, this death is fitting, and he doesn't deserve a dignified end. Chum begs and pleads the whole drive back.
James, I should have trusted you. I'm sorry. You're truly sorry. I was scared, Saint. I was scared for her. Talk to me. Saint, talk to me. What are you going to Swamp Thing! Oh, no.
You're too late. Scrotus was here. You okay, baby? Come here. Come on. Come on. Okay.
Nobody will remember my name.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. I'll remember. I promise you. No. No, 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 no.
For the family! Lord Scrotus likes to take his time! Where is he?
Kill them. I want you to paint my name in their blood across the lands.
Where is he? Burn through your veins. Where is he? Where is he?
No mercy!
The final mission. The crippled warboy that was used to heal us is very spiteful about it and willingly gives us Scabman's patrol patterns.
2 weeks, he said! A spent shell! Bring his corpus gratis to the organic mechanic! And let the blood serve! Now my blood returns for you, Scrotus! Now my blood returns!
The final fight is in 2 stages. First, a convoy takedown that a fully upgraded magnum opus could just tear through. Once the first stage is complete, Scabman is teetering on a cliff and Max uses magnum opus as a ramp to knock it off. Max wants revenge at all costs. Chum would rather die with the magnum opus than live without it. So he does. Stage 2 of the finale is Scabman and Max's interceptor trying to run him over. The car was destroyed in the tutorial, but I am completely on board with a nation that cares so much about symbols and vibes to rebuild a Nemesis car and use all the resources to do that as an ultimate trophy or a symbol of irony to kill them with it. The gameplay is pretty simple. Dodge the car, pick up a Thunderpoon, throw it at him. The fun is in the dialogue. All these dead and gone characters that in life acted like, well, people, and supported Max, sometimes downright caring for what's best for him, are now screaming for blood in his head, or using lines that were supportive in one context being very different in this context, or even Max's own voice. The best is the shaman, the voice in his head that always acted as his moral compass and healer, now joining the chorus for blood. We win. We retrieve our medical instrument, and get our car back. I don't know how it's running fine after we blew it up either, but this ends the game with the car, gear, and Max that we see in the beginning of Fury Road. In the end game, we get Chum back to free roam and we can do side stuff. We unlock Max's jacket and double-barrel shotgun that are now available when we start a new game. This game was released months after the movie was, but it was scheduled for the year before. Avalanche, the studio behind Just Cause games, developed this under their producer Warner Bros. Warner gave them decades of concept art and stories, but nothing actually related to the current version of the film or access to the world's creator, George Miller. This was Avalanche's first vehicle-centric game, and Warner did silly stuff like force them to make a linear game before changing their minds. They also released the game on the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5, which crippled sales and got near-finished DLCs axed. It's interesting to look at, knowing they had access to past and future lore and stories, but not any of the people who actually made it. Also, the linear open world fiasco puts things like repetitive activities and that major story problem into perspective. Doesn't excuse any of it, but it is interesting. Conclusion time. Ground combat is pretty decent. Car combat is even better. Upgrading both feels satisfying and earned. Extracurricular activities get a bit repetitive. The story is good, except for its fatal flaw. The characters and world are top-notch that deserve recognition. It's got issues, but it's still one of my favorites, and I wish more people played it. Alright, water is a vital resource. Bottoms up.